As you can see, we're no longer in Texas or Los Angeles. Welcome to Lone Pine. This is the site for my Whiskey Tango Fondo gravel event. We came a day early because there's one thing I wanted to check out. It's that away. Lone Pine is a weird remote town in the middle of nowhere. We're getting even weirder today. We're going to a ghost town. It's called Cerro Gordo. Hey Emily, what does Cerro Gordo mean in Spanish?
Fat hill.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Cerro Gordo is an abandoned, well, semi-abandoned ghost town, mining town, way up a crazy mountain on the other side of Owens Lake, which is no longer a lake. The whole water rights saga here is super interesting, but this is sort of a personality flaw for me, is I'll find out about a crazy climb and I'll have to ride my bike up it.
I'm Phil Gaimon. I was a pro cyclist for 10 years, racing all over the world. Now I'm retired, but I'm not done suffering on my bike, climbing mountains as fast as I can, and going on crazy adventures. I couldn't be the best at racing, and I'm definitely the worst at retiring. Welcome to Worst Retirement Ever.
So this is the bottom. The climb, it's about 4,500 feet in 7 or 8 miles. It's an average gradient of 11%. And normally when I go for these things, I'm looking at like previous times. Only a handful of people have ever done this ride, and it looks like they're mostly on mountain bikes. So I have no frame of reference on how to pace this or what's gonna be at the top. I'm pretty sure my gravel bike set up for Whiskey Tango Fondo, I've got 45s on there. I'm pretty sure that'll be enough. The other element that's interesting here is that someone's got to come up to follow me. So best of luck to Harrison, Alyssa, and Griffin. Are you guys comfortable driving like steep, scary roads?
I think this car is really good at rollover factor, so I think we should be fine on the dirt road there.
Watching these dudes tires, and I'm going to do the same thing. I should start by saying that I do not have a power meter on my Factor Ostro gravel, so I'll just be telling you the heart rate and numbers, and if you don't believe me, you can check my Strava. It is kind of a problem to go without a power meter just from a pacing perspective, but the upside, of course, is there's no accountability or regret if you truly botch it because you don't know. This is especially true for a climb like this, which has sort of a dynamic, tricky gradient. It starts off flat, and people think, oh, that's nice, it starts off flat. But if you know that the average is 11% and the first half is 9%, it's sort of just a nut kicker every time you're riding something that's kind of shallow. So I was pretty careful to control my pace early on. I kept it, well, I'm not going to say easy, but I kept from maxing out. We're also kind of at altitude here. We're starting around 4,000 feet. My heart rate got up to 169 pretty quick, and I made sure to keep it from breaking 170. That's when I know I'd be like getting into a hole. The first 5 minutes was pretty flat, and that headwind was not fun. But once you get into the canyon, the rocks sort of block the wind. Now the gradient is your biggest problem. But Harrison was able to get the drone up in the air a couple times, so the wind was minimized here. I think overall the gravel bike was faster on this course. The previous KOM did have a mountain bike, but it was bumpy for me. It was definitely, I was switching sides a lot, trying to find a smoother line. There wasn't one. I never struggled for grip on my 45C tires, so I think that was enough. But a mountain bike, some suspension, it could have gone lower pressure. Definitely would have been a smoother, more comfortable, more efficient ride on a mountain bike. It was steep enough that I never had traction to stand, which I like to do to accelerate out of corners, take the pressure off my junk, or just kind of recruit different muscles here and there as a break on a long climb like this. I was afraid that cars would get stuck behind us or come from ahead. If there's a car passing, just honk at me, so I know to not swerve into them.
There were none. Over an hour climbing, 0 cars. We are 3.5 hours from Los Angeles. It's just awesome how remote it can get out here. There was a little flat part and a quick downhill, which nice reprieve, but again, I just know I'm going to pay for that because we're going to average 11% no matter what.
This part was around the middle of the climb, so I used that to sort of break up the effort mentally. After that dip, I knew I could allow myself to push a little bit harder, let that heart rate creep up as we're getting closer to the end. Still, we're only halfway. And we are at enough altitude that you have to be careful not to go too hard because there's really no recovery. You can't come back for it if you dig too deep. I'm going to guess that power-wise I averaged around 365, 375, but I only would have gone over 400 on a couple steep parts where I just had no choice. Now it's time for a half-assed Wikipedia research segment. Cerro Gordo was a silver mine in the late 1800s, and then it was zinc in the early 1900s. It was abandoned. Recently, like 2019, was purchased by a couple investors who've been trying to revive it, rebuild, make a tourist attraction. Definitely some progress and stuff going on up there, but it would take a lot of years, I feel like, to get approved to build in remote areas. You've got to build everything earthquake-proof. There's mudslides and rock slides and crazy weather. You're not getting a cement mixer up that road. So far, the main business in Cerro Gordo seems to be a very successful and interesting YouTube channel. That's run by a guy named Brent Underwood. I DM'd him. We talked a little bit, but he wasn't there that day to give me a tour. If you want a tour, of course, that's available on his YouTube channel. I didn't really have time for that anyway. I had a Fondo to put on. So there's the top of Cerro Gordo. I'm not saying I recommend it, but between the tough terrain, weather conditions, gradient, length, altitude, if there's a tougher climb in California, I haven't seen it. Great views, of course, and a really unique spot.
That was insane. And it's snowing. It's so steep you can't even pace it.
From the car, I just...
Oh, view's not bad though. There's that. They're building ghost townhouses. I told Factor that I would get an epic KOM on the Austro gravel this year. That was supposed to be Mauna Kea. That ruined it, so I made up for it today. Okay, now I'm cold. Let's get the heck out of here. How was the drive? Boring.
No, it's fine.
How was it? I don't know what I expected.
I'll do a separate video later for Whiskey Tango Fondo, but it was a great event, beautiful day. This was year 2 for Whiskey Tango. We had registration on Saturday in Lone Pine, chamois butter shakeout ride that afternoon. We had a screening of a new cycling movie called Hard Miles, which is the first time I was in that area. I was a stunt double for this movie, and that was where they filmed most of it. They film all the Westerns here. Sierra Club hosted a campfire chat where we talked about the preservation of this area, the fight to keep their water, how climate change effects are seen locally. The main event was Sunday. The course was in great shape. My business partner and I are sort of learning that it's not about finding a course that's going to be weatherproof that could be the same every year, as much as accepting that the weather is going to destroy stuff and change the course. And we'll have to be able to evolve and manage that year to year. Last year, we had to pull out a couple sections that were just too sandy and completely unrideable. This year, the sand was the most challenging part, but it was in much better shape. And we were able to include this really fun, challenging climb called Hogback Road, which kind of goes parallel to Whitney Portal Road and spits you out where the pavement starts and you can go up the main climb. And we did not have to resort to pavement very much at all in the course planning. The land here was settled by the Paiute tribe as far back as we know, Now there's some ranches, some cattle, but all day you're looking at this view of Mount Whitney, which is incredible and never gets old. I just kept taking the same pictures. It cracks me up that Colorado has all these 14ers, climbs that are over 14,000 feet. It's known for the mountains, but Mount Whitney is actually taller than any point in Colorado. Of course, you can't ride bikes all the way to the top of Mount Whitney like you can Pikes Peak or Mount Evans. I'll give them that. But it was an awesome day. I'm really happy with how that event went. I'll put a link to the mailing list for you to sign up for next year. Of course, donate to Sierra Club. They do great work on small scales like the communities here, providing volunteers for our aid stations registration, as well as big picture stuff, trying to save the world. Thank you for watching. See you very soon on the YouTube channel. See you next year in Lone Pine.